And welcome back to the shop. Jeff's Woodwind shop here in Baltimore, Maryland, and today is an episode of Jeff's obsolete and converted machines. This is an old valve grinder. I don't know anything about diesel engines or other engines, but I know this was used for that sort of work. I picked this up off of Craigslist locally. It was pretty cheap. I want to say I bartered the guy down to, I don't know, 150 bucks or something like that. But this has become one of the most handy tools in my shop for grinding stuff. I don't have $1,000 to drop on a tool and cutter grinder, so this is making do. It has two components, two wheels that spin when the motor comes on. This side here spins. Can use that against this wheel to grind angles. Loosen this nut here and we can pivot this. It's got a scale with hash marks for angles. I basically use this for grinding down, grinding the threads off of things so I can have a very short thread with a longer pin. I'll have a video on that, what I use that for, coming up in the future. On this side we've got this other wheel, and I made this table for it. Typically on this arbor, I guess you could say, there's a V-block that you can lock something in and it pivots freely so you can face something off against this wheel. I had limited use for that, so I made a table. I've got some T-slots in here which I will make some accessories for, and this has been a lot handier for grinding tools and such. Has controls so we can move the wheels this way against the spinning part on that end, and we've got a crank down here that's cold and stiff that can move things in. Ultimately, in my free time, which means I'll never get to it, I'm going to put make dials to measure exactly how much is moving, and probably change out the long screw here so I can have a more controlled travel this way, because this is a pretty coarse screw, and I turn that, it's probably rotation per inch. Yeah, move it about a quarter of a rotation and that goes at least a quarter of an inch, so that cruises in there. But anyway, we're going to be making a reamer today. So I have a saxophone upstairs that I have to overhaul, and I'm going to make a reamer. This is number 36 drill rod, and I like my hinges to fit pretty tight, and I like the hinges to fit through the posts even tighter. So the original steels on this saxophone are 0.106. This one measures, well, a nominal number 36 is 0.1065. All of my drill rod measures 0.106 or 0.1061, except for this piece, which is 0.1059, which is going to be perfect for making a reamer for cleaning out the posts, because I want the steel to fit snugly in the posts. I don't want any wiggle in the posts, so that's what I'm going to be making this out of. So first things first, I'm going to talk through this because the grinder here is pretty loud. So we'll get through the talking first. First I have to clean off the end here, because that's kind of ragged. And then prior to hardening, what I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to be grinding a shallow angle or steep angle depending on your perspective. And then the face of that angle is going to be polished on the stone, so we have cutting edges. Prior to cutting that angle, I'm going to ease the tip just a little bit. And the reason for that is, if you can imagine, there's already an angle on here. As we put that into the hinge, if the very tip is eased just a little bit, imagine just a slight radius, bluntness, I don't know what you want to call it, as that's going in, you don't want that tip to dig in. So that's what we're going to do first. Then we're going to rough grind a face on here, and then we're going to harden it, and then we're going to clean up the hardening a little bit on the grinder, and then by hand, and then poof, we've got a reamer that I can use forever and ever until I lose it. So that's the gist of it, and I'm going to reposition the camera and be right back. Okay, back at the grinder. I put a line here that's straight in line with the face. I should probably face this off, but I'm not terribly concerned about that. We're just going to be doing roughing here. But that's so you can see, get an idea of what kind of angle I'm holding here. Since the camera is off at an angle, get a little bit of a parallax going on there. So I'm going to clean up the end down here. Going to ease this end just slightly, and then I'm going to grind the angle. And one thing I forgot to mention, you're going to see this starting to turn colors. I don't care about that, because I'm going to harden this all over again anyway. This is not hard to start with, but this is going to get pretty hot. This is probably going to glow when I'm just hogging off material here to make that angle. Once you have this hardened, you don't want to do that. You don't want to get this glowing, because there goes your hardening. So that's why I'm roughing out the shape here first. Makes it a lot faster. You can do this on a bench grinder, you can do this with a Dremel, like a cutoff wheel, that's very fast. But I'm doing it at the grinder here just so I can have a camera set up. So we'll zoom in here on the handiwork and focus. Should I move this over in front of the red? That'll be easier to see. Okay, so we got some colors going on, but you notice the tip here kind of folded over. It's got a little bit of curl to it. That's fine. That's going to be ground off when I do the polishing. And that's that relieved end. So we've still got a little bit of the relieved end in there inside the curl. All of that's going to go away with the hardening and the sharpening and all that good stuff. But we've got a nice flat face here. There's the shape we're going here. I don't know the precise angle. I've done enough of these, I just do it by eye. Your mileage may vary depending on what you like to, how you like it to feel. I've tried ones a little bit A little bit steeper, a little bit shallower. About like this is what seems to work best for me. But make some, try it out, and see what you think. Okay, here we are at the hardening area where I do all the hot stuff. Fire safe area, peanut oil, fire extinguisher at the ready just in case. I keep hardening stuff very low tech. If you're doing this seriously for other people, you really want to have a controlled environment and a kiln and all sorts of stuff, so you're controlling the exact temperature. But this is low tech. I'm going to go by eye. I'm going to get this up to a orangish color, and then throw it in the peanut oil to cool, and then it will be hardened. For cutting tools, I do not temper them. Usually after you quench tool steel in oil or water, it's going to be what they call glass hard, meaning it will chip and not take a blow very well. It'll shatter. I want that for this. This is going to be a cutting edge. I'm not cutting steel with this. I'm cutting softer metal. It will be fine. So I'm just going to quench it, and that's it. It's done. I like to give myself at least a couple of inches. And there's our hardened reamer. And now the bulk of the cleaning up from here is all by hand, because I don't want to introduce any more heat to this and end up losing my nice glass hard cutting edges. So we'll see if I can keep this focused in the frame here. You can see that curl that was at the very tip. Most of that's gone away. It mostly burned off in the hardening process. And this is just cleaned up a little bit of Scotch-Brite. Since I am making this reamer intentionally to be slightly undersized from nominal, I don't care if I lose some material here from a green Scotch-Brite scrubby. If this were something that I needed the exact dimension here, I would have wrapped this before heating. I would have wrapped this with iron wire and put some flux on there, and that would have protected this from the oxides that would have built up. And I would have quenched it right in that wrap of iron wire, and then when I cleaned it up, it would look pretty much like this right now, if not better. But now on to some hand sharpening. Okay, to sharpening. Things you will need for sharpening your newly hardened reamer. You can get by with just a combination bench stone like this. One side's coarse with a flute shim stuck to it. Other side's finer. What I really like though are these diamond sharpening stones. These are the small ones. They come in an assortment like this. Blue is the coarse, red is medium, green is fine. Monocrystalline diamond in the surface last forever and a day, as long as you don't abuse them. You can use these with water, so it saves a lot on the mess. And it's going to be messy anyway, but it's a lot less messy than dealing with oil. When you use different grits, whether it's the diamond stones, these are from DMT, Diamond Machining Technologies. When you use different grits, whether it's these or a combination stone like this, you want to go in opposing directions. So start with a coarse stone. I will go in this direction, switch to the next stone up. I will go in this direction. So the wear marks on your cutting face, first one goes this way, second one goes this way, third one goes this way, fourth one go, however many grits you have. Usually on the last one, I will try to go kind of round and round and round. And I'll do that on a fine Arkansas stone. And get a nice mirror polish on that. Now the trick to sharpening these effectively is to not keep picking it up and looking at it and checking your progress. So if you're working with your coarse side of the India stone, you can feel where that's going to be flat, and you just want to keep that right against the stone, and I don't know, do a count in your head, have a timer going. Be very careful not to rock it. It's easy to do, so you have to be really, really careful about that. Either keep your pressure leaning on the heel of it or on the point. I recommend the heel. It's easier to control, and the point, if you're leaning on that, on one of these stones you can dig a groove in there. That's no fun. So you just do this for a little while, and then you check your surface. I'm not touching here and not touching here, so I'm going to do this some more. I'll probably color that with a Sharpie so I can track my progress, and probably leave red ink on my stone now. Make sure you get a good foundation so you're not rocking. And don't worry about taking too long of strokes. Just do as long as is comfortable for you. And it's fairly unnatural because everything in our body moves in a curve, in an arc. So here you can see I'm doing okay on the heel, but I've still got some red up here at the tip. So I'm going to turn off the camera so I'm not distracted, so I can sharpen this properly and not have it take all morning, and show you when I'm done.